I think, yeah, tomorrow. That is for our member also. So Parissa, do you want to hop on and open your mic?
Yeah, hi. So hello everyone. I just wanted to make a quick announcement. For those of you guys who've already signed up for the mentor-mentee program before the deadline, we will be having our reveal meeting tomorrow night, Friday night at 7 p.m. So we have been sending out some announcements on that for the past week, and we will continue doing that today and tomorrow. It's going to be on Zoom. It won't be too long since we know it's like a Friday night. We don't want to take up too much of your time. But we will be having it tomorrow at 7 p.m. If you guys can't make it, please let me know on Discord ahead of time, just so we can keep track of that. And I'm just gonna make like a request that only people that signed up for it on time show up, because again, it's gonna be a reveal. So you know, if you haven't signed up for it by the deadline, you won't really be paired. You can still show up, but there really won't be anything to do. And if you guys missed the deadline and could not sign up this time, don't worry, we will be doing it again next semester, hopefully. So stay on the lookout for that, and you guys will definitely have a chance to try doing that again then. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there. We have a couple of things planned. Yeah, hope to see you guys there.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Parissa. So just so you know, before Nick and Charles, I think we're also going to record this meeting. So that I think we're just gonna, post on our YouTube channel so that it will encourage more people to watch if they don't have a chance right now. Is that okay with you guys?
Good.
Yep.
All right. Cool. So let's start the meeting, right? Hi everyone. My name is Tuan, and I'm the president for the CSS Computer Science Society. And here I'm gonna present with you CoStar, Nick and Charles. They are here to represent the CoStar Group, which is a commercial real estate information company. So they're here to talk to us more about what the company is about and their roles, and their more importantly, their personal story as they goes into this company. So Nick and Charles, Nick, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. So yeah, my name is Nick. I am a campus recruiter with CoStar Group. I specialize on hiring for our West Coast campus, or our West Coast offices. So we have a couple offices here in Orange County, one in Ontario, and then one down in San Diego. So that's kind of my wheelhouse of things. And I've been with CoStar for just about a year or so. Yeah, and we'll go a little bit more into my background soon enough. Charles, you want to introduce yourself?
All right. Hi, I'm Charles Taylor. I'm not sure why my lighting is going in and out, but I guess there's a fancy effect going on here. But I am the manager of the LoopNet mobile team. So we have several different teams in CoStar, and one of our departments is the LoopNet department, which is the commercial real estate side of the equation. We also have things like apartments.com, and I manage the mobile team, iOS and Android apps on the West Coast.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I'll just start going through the presentation. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah. So, in terms of like, if you haven't heard of who we are and what we do, that we understand not necessarily that CoStar isn't necessarily a household name yet. We're working on it, but one of the products that we do work on that most people are really familiar with is apartments.com. And the product that Charles works on, LoopNet, is very similar to that, just for like commercial buildings and stuff like that. But we will go into that in just a minute, after introductions of who we are and stuff. But in terms of, this is just a quick index of what we're going to be doing, quick introductions about our backgrounds and stuff like that real quick. And then we'll go into the products, talk about our culture, talk about some, what we're doing future-wise. And then we'd love to answer the questions.
Let me fix the lighting here.
Okay. Brief introduction, like Charles has said, is his title, technical manager, mobile development for LoopNet. Charles, if you want to walk us through your work history and kind of, I put up all the companies you've worked for. If you want to walk through it, that'd be great.
Put them all up. You pulled them all up. Man, I don't think we have that kind of time. Yeah.
Well,
so,
maybe the most recent ones, I guess.
Yeah, so I've had a bit of experience. I've been in this industry for 25 years now in software development. So I've done a bit. Let's see, what would be the most interesting things here? Because I started off as a design guy. I actually went to school. If you see Kent State at the top there, I actually went to school for 2D animation. So I did not plan to be a software developer. I had no plans to be anywhere near software development. I actually got into software development in a weird way. So I'll kind of discuss that. It was summer, and I needed to make some money because I was getting a little frustrated with the 2D animation route, because when you're doing 2D animation, I don't know, for those of you who may have dabbled in fine arts, you don't get to like create your characters and control your characters right away. You end up doing grunt work for somebody else's stuff. And I was like, how can I have more control and actually bring out my characters and my visions? And what had come about at the time was 3D animation, where you had full control because nobody else really knew much about 3D animation. So you weren't going to be working on somebody else's stuff. You're going to be working on your own stuff. But the problem with 3D animation at the time is the hardware running it was $10,000 and the software was $3,000 and up. So I needed to make some money to be able to afford to get these products. So I actually went to a company that is not listed on here, New Horizons Computer Learning Center. They taught training courses. And I had a little background in training at the time. And I had some design skills, so I started teaching a lot of their design class. I got hired on by them to teach a lot of their design classes like Photoshop, Quark Express, Illustrator. And then and I'm dating myself now, so you guys know how old I am, but at the time, there was no web. The internet had been around for a long time, but that was really regulated to geeks. And the web had just come about when I started working at New Horizons Computer Learning Center. So I literally went to the local university, had an hour-long talk on HTML. And in that hour-long talk back in '95, that was enough time to learn the entire HTML spec and learn how to do web development. So I picked that. Yes, so I picked that up in that hour. I went back to my company and said, I just learned how to do web development. Can I do your website? Because barely anybody had a website at that time, and I needed some practice. So they were like, yeah, sure, you can do our website. So I did their website, and then we said, oh, this is awesome. So let's put it on our business cards to advertise we're one of the first companies with a website. They put it on their business cards, and the printer that printed those business cards kept taking the website address off the business cards. And after like the second time they did it, we said, why do you keep taking our web address off the business cards? And they said, web address, we had no idea what that was. It was just some HTTP/ stuff. We thought you had made a mistake. So that's how early in the process I started all this. So once I had done the website, people were coming for training and they were asking who did the website, and then they would point to me. And then I started getting side gigs. I started actually teaching classes at the local university because I was one of the few people that knew web development. So all of a sudden I was teaching standing room only classes. I was teaching other companies how to do web development and web design. So then I left the training field and actually went into software development and went into web development doing at the time ColdFusion, ASP, and a little bit of Perl. And then I just branched on to ASP.NET web development, and then Java development and JavaScript. And then it just kind of went from there. And I just kept moving on with web development until in 2007, Steve Jobs released the iPhone, and that was a game changer. But then Steve Jobs said, oh no, we don't want anybody to, nobody would want to create third-party apps on here. So you guys can create links to your little browser applications, but we're not going to let you do third-party apps. But after we lobbied enough, Steve Jobs relented, and in 2008 he said, now we'll allow third-party apps on the iPhone. So that's when I switched over from the PC over to Mac, because I hadn't been on a Mac in like over a decade. And I switched back over to the Mac, got an iPhone, and I never looked back. I've been in mobile development from then on, doing Palm Pre, iOS, Android, Roku development, so Blackberry, if you folks remember that. So, and now I manage a team for CoStar. So I didn't go through all the companies, but yeah, I've been through a few companies doing software development over the years. So that's my background in the longer version, I guess, not the shorter version.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then for me, just title again, campus recruiter, but I do focus in on some full-time hiring and do some technical recruiting too, outside of just campus recruiting. My story doesn't start quite as long as Charles ago, but you know,
yeah, go ahead.
So I started, I was going to school at USC, and while I was doing that, I was working at Disneyland part-time too. I was studying marketing at the time, and to be fair, let me backtrack that. I was studying accounting at the time, and then I found out as I was going through the program that I really, really hate accounting. Yeah. Early stuff is good, but the later stuff, the more you dive into it, all the tax laws and technical stuff and all the things that happen, I was just like, this is not for me. So I changed and I went to more of a marketing degree. I found the human side of it far more interesting. And trying to, how do you build products and brands around things that people care about and are interested in, and then how do you make it so that you become an industry leader, right? So that was really, really interesting to me for that, and that's what I focused on. But of course, going through marketing, I graduated right at the time of the crash, the last economic crash. So there were no marketing jobs. There was nothing for me out of school. So I continued with working at Disneyland for a while and just becoming a supervisor and working in the parks and having a really fun time doing that. But from a development standpoint, that you can only go so far. And so I ended up making I took a small internship job at a small company, 30-person company called C3 Office Solutions. The company name has changed, but they were basically an office supplies company and a printer company, and they needed marketing services and stuff like that. So I took an unpaid internship while I was working full-time at Disney to do that, see if I can get my foot in the door with marketing work. So during that time, I was probably working around 70, 75-hour work weeks. It was brutal. I did that for about 2 months before I almost had a full breakdown. 2 months of 75-hour work is really tough. And so they gave me, I basically had to go to the office company and said, look, you either have to give me a full-time job so I can leave Disney, or I have to just quit. I can't sustain this. So I did. They gave me the job. I worked with them doing a lot of different various types of work, administrative work, helping recruit a little bit here and there, customer service, doing some repairs, all sorts of things. So it was a really interesting job, kind of got my foot in, really into more, if you could say, like office space. But that was not a very fulfilling job for me in a lot of ways, especially in the industry of copiers will eventually be gone. And I was starting my career. So I'm like, why would I want to stay with the copy? The copying industry feels like it's going to be obsolete in 20 years. So fortunately, through a connection, and a role opened up at a law firm, a workers' compensation law firm called Michael Sullivan and Associates. I started there as a clerk, just being a paper pusher, just trying to understand what lawyers needed, what these documents meant, where they should be placed, and what to do with them for the lawyers, so that they could do their job more efficiently. That was good. I moved up a little bit here and there for that, and I was there for about 1.5 years. But I learned probably somewhat quickly that law, again, similar to accounting, was just not for me. It's just not what I wanted to do. And becoming a law clerk or something like that, I just didn't feel the right move for me. So I after some discussion with the team and the group, that they felt that, okay, well, also through that, I was learning that I wanted to get more into HR. I actually really enjoyed HR work, but they didn't really have a spot for me. So at that point, it was just getting to a point where it wasn't helping me anymore. And I was taking classes to go into HR and stuff like that. And I really needed to dedicate my time to that. So I quit the job and was unemployed for a grand total of 3 weeks before a company that I had interviewed with got back to me and said, we would like to bring you on for a contract role with our recruiting team supporting our recruiters. And that was Capital Group. So I was like, perfect. Joined Capital Group. It's a big finance company, especially in Orange County. They're a great product, great company. And I was with them for a few months supporting recruiters in various fields and stuff like that, basically doing a lot of scheduling, onboarding, administrative type work for them. And yeah, through that, I really found like I love recruiting. Recruiting is a good time and I really enjoyed it. So I really started trying to pivot my career into that direction. And I was there very briefly, only about 4 months. And I had met somebody who had worked at a company that I had been dreaming about working with for many years, which is Blizzard. I don't know if some people may or may not know Blizzard, it's a big gaming company and whatnot. And
funny story, Blizzard is coming tomorrow. We have a product manager is coming tomorrow.
Really? A product manager? Who's that?
I think it was Lance Kimberlin. And he's worked on.
Not familiar. Okay.
But he's coming tomorrow at 5 o'clock. If you guys want to stop by and see.
That's great. That's cool. Maybe.
But that's definitely something that's coincidence.
Yeah. Blizzard's got a big presence down in Orange County. It's got a lot of folks for sure. Yeah. I was there for a little bit. So I was at Blizzard for about 1.5 years. I joined just through the connection. Basically they needed a person to do what I was doing at Capital Group just at Blizzard. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to do that. So I went to go work at Blizzard for doing that. After 6 months, they're like, Nick, you're super passionate about this stuff. You present well. You know how to get people excited about jobs and stuff like that. And we think you'd be great on our campus team. So I made the transition to going over to campus and doing campus recruiting with them and supporting them. I was doing that for about 1.5 years. And then I kind of got wind, I was total at Blizzard about 1.5 years. And I got wind that they were going to do some big layoffs and my positions were probably on the chopping block. So I needed to really consider my next move. So
not to hijack Nick, but early on, that's funny because I don't have Blizzard Entertainment on my resume. But early on, when I told you I was looking at 3D animation, I went by Blizzard Entertainment. I literally just went by their office unannounced and just said, "Oh man, I didn't know Blizzard was right here." I was like, "I'm wanting to get into 3D animation, and here you guys are." And so I walked into their offices. And the head of the company actually walked me around the entire facility and explained what everybody did in the company. And I was like, this guy was awesome. Yeah, he walked me through all the games they were working on, every project they were working on, awesome. Like I had made an appointment. And I was like, man, I want to come.
Was that Mike?
I don't remember. It's been 25 years.
Sure, okay.
So, but at the time, I was like, wow, I want to work here. But then I went a different route. I ended up going into web development instead of 3D animation because I was having so much fun developing websites. But sorry to hijack your stuff.
No, that's cool. That's a cool story. Yeah, I know. You can't do that anymore. Certainly can't do that anymore.
Nah.
But back in the day, that's great. So anyway, so I had to make the next move, and the next step that ended up coming along my way that was the right choice was a small agency recruiting agency that was focused around hiring car designers. So a lot of a mix of creative type, and a mix of technical type who knows how to, they can sketch out a car in like 2 minutes, and boom, here's your new design, right? But at a really high level. And then again, some folks who know how to use 3D CAD modeling systems and stuff like that. So automotive was good and it was interesting. Especially during the time when I was recruiting with them, it was everything was about designing the next electric car. And then even further forward, how do we design a car when we have autonomous vehicles that don't need a steering wheel? You know, so really cool concepts and ideas that are coming out. You know, that was really fun. And it was comfy, and I didn't need to make a move, but my current manager reached out to me and told me that CoStar was trying to spin up a campus recruiting effort, and I loved campus recruiting, and I love this type of stuff. So, and they wanted me to help build out the program here. So I couldn't pass up the opportunity, and I said, sure, I'm sold, I'm in. So here we are, a year later. That was my career. That's a quick walkthrough of my career. In terms of CoStar and who we are, right here is a lovely picture of our Richmond office back east. It's one of our biggest offices. It has close to around 900 employees overall. It's I think it's a great building, and it's a great place and good picture if anything. But in terms of who we are and our products, what CoStar does is we're kind of a tech/data analytics firm. We build web-based platforms such as these right here. These are just a handful of them for people to buy and sell various forms of real estate, all focused around commercial real estate. So that would include like big corporate buildings, office parks, office buildings, lands, businesses, all sorts of, and apartment complexes that we consider a part of the multifamily division. So these are just some of our products. We build these products and we take them, we provide services for people to sell them, provides ads, photos, videos, everything like that, virtual walkthroughs if they want. And then we take all that information that we get from these platforms and churn it through a database system and an analytics system and kick it back out to people looking to gain insight into what's happening in commercial real estate through what we call our CoStar Suite product, which is a subscription-based service that provides that insight into what's happening not only locally for them, but nationally. So that's kind of us in the tiniest possible nutshell I can put it. So yeah, and these are, of course, are some of our big brand name stuff. If you're in commercial real estate, you know exactly what all of these are. Just in terms of how we're doing, we've been growing a ton. We've been doing really well over the last few years. Earlier, believe it was last year, we were introduced into the NASDAQ 100. Publicly traded, obviously. We've got about 4,300 employees. We're in 7 different countries. We've got about 81 offices globally. In terms of our stock price, I don't like to use it. I take this with a grain of salt. Stock prices don't necessarily indicate performance, but in the case for us, it's probably one of the best ways that I can show how well we've been doing. And that, if you look at this graph, back in 2017, we were around 200 a share. Now, over the last year or two, we've shot up from around 400 to around 800. And this is during COVID, right? We took that little dip that you see was COVID. And then after that, we've gone back up, so we're doing really well. And a big part of that is that online, we're an online platform and service in an industry that was historically in-person based. And now that everyone has to adopt a virtual methodology of working, we're seeing that accelerated adoption rate for our platforms.
Wow. So
in terms of who kind of like competency based, like things of who we are, cultural things that we value and what we look for in folks, these are the competencies that we are interviewing against. These are all the things that we look for in people to be part of the CoStar team. Is, of course, do you have the technical skills, the functional skills? Can you operate in our space? Are you driven? Can you push for the initiative? Are you, like, hey, we've got this problem, we need to take care of it, let's do it, kind of thing, right? Of course, it's a collaborative environment. Every person works on a team. It's a huge thing. It's a big. All of our products, all of our everything. These are made by hundreds of developers. So it's a big production. We need people who can work in this kind of environment. We're a data-driven company. We're an analytics-focused company. So you have to have that data-driven mindset. You have to understand, metrics and performance based off of metrics and stuff like that. That's a big piece. Values, of course. We have, I think every company has their own value. But at the end of the day, I think a big thing that we really value is doing what's right for our customer. We value that, and we try to design our products around what the customers and their needs, and doing the right thing for our customers. And then that leads into customer focus, so obviously that everything is around the customers. We wouldn't be here without our customers. So these are all things that we really, really value when we're hiring and looking for people. I do want to touch briefly along the lines of diversity and inclusion for us. You know, it's a big piece of part of our values-driven, you know, identity as a company. You know, it's been something that obviously within the last few months has become a major hot topic for a lot of companies across the board, and for us, for no exception. You know, we take the idea of, you know, take diversity inclusion, and, you know, the first question is you ask, well, you know, why does it matter? Well, of course, you know, the first and foremost, it's just the right thing to do. You know, we as a company and we as a, you know, we need to do more. We've been doing it. We've had initiatives and we've worked on it, but it's just not enough. We need to continue to do more because it's the right thing to do. So, you know, what we're doing with it, again, the first step is acknowledging that we do need to do more. How we go about doing that, you know, there's several steps, several fronts that we're working on, you know, improving our work environment, having a more diverse leadership team, and improving our recruiting practices. There are a lot of, like, we talk about metrics driven, you know, being a metrics driven company. Me as a recruiter, I have specific diversity goals that I need to be focusing on. Hiring teams have specific diversity goals that they need to be focusing on about how do we properly consider our team's environment and what can we do to bring in new perspectives about this. So there's a lot to be said about that. I don't want to dive into too specific details about it, but it's a big piece of it for us. We took one of our recruiters who was really passionate about this stuff, and we thrusted her into the program manager for this, and she's been doing a great job. We have, we're spinning up more and more support groups. We have the Black Excellent Network internally that has just, I've been part of it and just being part of the general body. And we've had book clubs and just amazing discussions around what we can do more, engaging more historically Black colleges and stuff like that. So it's just a huge piece for us that we really know we need to do more, and we can do more, and we will do more. With that said, I mean, that's kind of the overview, the introduction, you know, and at this point, I think we would really love to just field questions and answer anything you guys might want to know.
Cool. Thank you so much, Nick and Charles. I think very helpful presentations what you guys do. With that, I just want to quickly ask the audience, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. If anything, feel free to unmute your mic and talk.
I was going to say that last photo too. That looks like what our offices look like right now. All working from home.
Yeah, right. It's completely barren and empty right now. Yeah. And I mean, if you guys are curious about our tech stack, how we go about doing certain things, you can talk about. I'm sure Charles can go into great detail about our approaches on problems. A lot of these things are like. It may sound simple to build these marketplaces and stuff like that, but just from getting to know the team and everything, they're just incredibly complex enterprise systems that just have hard problems that we really have to work through. That takes a lot of people, a lot of smart people.
I see. So my first question is about the history of CoStar. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the history of CoStar, but can you just touch us on basically how CoStar just starting off and how they're branching off to different real estate? Because as we see, there are many different websites and also, that doing different things. So,
yep. So Andy Florence, our CEO, founded the company back in the late '80s, and he took the mindset of there are a lot of competitors in this space. Technology is still in its infant stage. What can I do to leverage technology to try and build our space, or build our product in such a way that it provides different value to people in a more accessible manner than what was out there? And a lot of what I mean by that is when people were looking to buy and sell properties and real estate, there was a book, a big, thick book that you could go, and it was like a magazine kind of thing, and you just put the thing and you pull it out, right? And that's, that was that was the way things were done for a long time. And just over time, as technology grew, Andy realized like, oh, we can leverage websites and analytics and all of this to gather the information that we need to then have the industry insights to be innovative for this industry. And that's kind of the approach that he did over time. And then, of course, as we continue to grow and do better and better, he would keep an eye out for companies who had interesting products that could add value to our services. So there's been certainly many series of acquisitions with CoStar over time. Apartments.com being one of them. Apartments.com it only become part of CoStar in the last, 7 years or so, if I recall.
Yeah, it's been even less than that. It's like 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years or something like that, right? And now it's one of our flagship products. LoopNet was one of the same things. It was its own independent company that had been acquired by CoStar that was kind of brought into the fold. So I think there's a big piece of it that Andy has a good eye for spotting technology that can bring a lot of value to our field and our industry, and he plays it smart and knows when to bring them in, and how to and has a vision for what we're going to do with them.
I see. Okay, so I think another question is, when you bring in this different type of technology, right? And Charles, like you said before, you are dealing with different. So back then you were doing HTML. You said you were doing HTML before, doing the 1 hour talk, right? And then basically you move on into like the maybe more like I think I remember Perl and Java, and then you move on to JavaScript. So can you tell us a little bit more about the journey you took to like get into that level? Because we have to know that you're constantly learning about this material.
Yes, I mean it's basically software development is lifelong learning, I would say. So there's always something new on the horizon. There's always changes, updates, new languages, new technologies. So it's just that's what makes it fun. It makes it challenging, but it also makes it fun because there's always something new to learn and something exciting on the horizon. So yeah, my journey was is maybe a little bit easier than some because there was nothing when I started, basically. So it was just HTML. And then they were like, oh, let's Netscape at the time, the browser that dominated, that I thought would dominate forever. They said, well, Java was starting to take hold, and they wanted to be on that bandwagon. So they created a little scripting language called JavaScript. And that was very small in its infancy at the time. So it was easy to learn JavaScript at the time. And then they wanted more styling for the web. So they came out with cascading style sheets, CSS, and it was a small subset and it kept growing. So I could just pick up these one by one by one. I didn't have to like learn them all at once. So now it's a little bit more complex in the case that you have to learn a lot of technologies to make dynamic websites these days. But the good news is you have a lot more resources than we did back then. So there was no Stack Overflow, there was no Google, we just had to learn it through books and trial and error. So it's a much easier time of picking these skills up now. But yeah, there's a lot of technologies that go into building websites and applications these days. So as long as you are excited about learning and continuously learning, you'll do great in this industry, because it's all about keeping up with the latest technologies and latest trends. And with us, we have both the back end and the front end. So we have the back end, how we call the services, and we have our front end through our iOS and Android applications. So we have to learn. We're probably one of the most diverse groups in the mobile team, because we have to deal with, the native applications on one side, and then the server side web applications on the back end. So we are a .NET shop at CoStar mostly. We also have Node.js as well, and We mostly run SQL Server, but we've also gotten to cloud services with AWS. So we have a mix of everything. We even run some of the Google stack as well. So depending on what we need. So it's a pretty diverse set of software technologies we use throughout CoStar, and it becomes fun to innovate, because one of the nice things I like about CoStar is they're not dictating on high of what technologies we're going to use or what features we can or cannot explore. They're more about, here's what we need to get done. What's the best way to get that done? And they leave a lot of that up to the software developers and the program managers and things to figure out what's the best way to get that done. So for instance, one of the things I liked is when I first came in, surprisingly enough, on the native applications, there was no push notifications. And I was like, well, you've put in a bid on this huge commercial real estate building, or you're looking for a specific building in this city. I think you'd want to get notified immediately when a building comes up that meets your criteria. So that was one of the first things we put into place when I got on board. And they're open to new ideas. They're open to new ways of looking at doing things here at CoStar. So that's one of the reasons I like working here.
I see.
Hopefully that answered your question.
No, definitely. I think it's more than just answer the question. Question for Charles also. Yeah, what is the tech stack that the developer usually operates on? Like the languages, what kind of framework? What do you use for the database?
Good question. And that's kind of what I alluded to in the last question, or in the last answer, I should say. It kind of highly depends. It depends on which department you're with, because if you looked at that group of companies we have now, we have apartments.com, we have Apartment Finder, Westside Rentals, CoStar, LoopNet, the list goes on and on, Lands of America. And when we integrate a company into our larger company, we try to bring them into the technology that we're using, which is, like I said, mainly ASP.NET and C#. But we also have Node.js as well and React. But we also, like I said, we use Google Cloud Functions. So we use some of the Google tech stack, but that's really Node.js on the back end as well. And we use .NET Core in some cloud functions on the Google stack as well. And on the front end, at least for mobile, we're using native Swift in iOS, and we've switched from Java on Android over to Kotlin. So we're using the latest language on Android as well. So we're always looking to use the latest and the greatest if we can, if our users are going to upgrade. But we're using a diverse set of software languages here. And on the back end, like I said, it depends. We're using BigQuery in the cloud. We're using on the back end, internally, we use SQL Server mostly for most of our database housing needs, but like I said, it depends. We have a few other databases we use as well, but the primary database is SQL Server.
And just to add into that, like Charles was saying too, that it just depends on the team. Like I know the apartments.com for certain products, certain features of their product offerings, they're using Ruby.
Yeah.
Just to get certain pieces of it executed. And they use an Angular framework, and stuff like that. So again, it's just all over. There's a lot of different ones, just depends on the team, right?
Yes. Oh, and I see a question here about how do you stay whelmed as opposed to overwhelmed when there are so many technologies to learn? That's a good question. It's well, the way you don't get overwhelmed is you stay focused on a particular technology, because for instance, when we switched over from Java to Kotlin on Android, we didn't say, just stop what you're doing on Java and learn Kotlin, drop everything you know about Java. We slowly incorporated in. We said, look, there's a new feature. This would be a good time for you to learn Kotlin and maybe incorporate that into the app. And so we take a slow, deliberate approach to incorporating and learning new technologies so that people aren't overwhelmed. it's not about overwhelming people. It's about learning new things that'll be interesting, keeping people engaged, and also, for instance, in Google's case, in Android, this was the way Google was going. They were really moving away from Java, and if you go to their conferences, they were only focused on Kotlin. So they, in the technology industry, at least, a smart company like most of these companies try to be smart about introducing technology, so they don't just make it totally incompatible with what they did before. Android, in this case, they made it very easy to transition over to Kotlin, so you could intermix both Java and Kotlin code in the same Android project. So we slowly started incorporating that, and that's how we've done with a lot of other technologies. On the iOS side, we slowly switched over from Objective-C over to Swift, and they made it very nice and smooth for the most part. There was some hiccups, but for the most part, they tried to make it nice and smooth to incorporate both languages into the exact same project. So you weren't having to just drop everything you learned before and start something new. So that's kind of the way you stay from being overwhelmed by all these technologies.
I see. Wow. Okay, so the next question is, I'm not sure if you are familiar with the directive and the missions of the LoopNet, but Johannes has a question on what is the LoopNet doing to actually actively compete with other multi-listing services platforms. Is it expanding into account data, or is it focus on the broker's side?
Nick, do you want me to take that, or you want to take that one?
You go ahead, field that. You probably have more insight on it.
In terms of how do we compete, one of the ways we compete is by having, and like Nick talked about earlier, we are a data-driven company. We try to give people the most data, the most analytical information to make the most informed decision about the purchase or the lease they're trying to do as far as commercial real estate is concerned. So with that, we also, CoStar, as you've seen, has been acquiring several properties to boost those analytic capabilities in that reach. So as they do that, it tends to become a larger place where, kind of like Google, you don't say, oh, let me look around for a search engine to do my work. You just say, I need to Google this. And that's kind of where CoStar has started to position itself, where you're not looking for a multi-listing spot. You just say, let me go to CoStar and take care of this, because I'm going to find what I'm looking for or get all the information I need to make an informed decision about the property I'm looking for. So that's kind of how I see CoStar approaching this space.
And to tack onto that, and specifically about the acquisitions and things like that, just to give like insight, like when you're talking about property values and stuff like that, and if something's going to be a good investment, there are so many factors that are going to establish if something's going to be a good investment. But,
yes.
2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, right? And like things you think about is like look at downtown LA. Downtown LA 10 years ago was like just full of skid row, worn down warehouses and properties that were garbage, for the like garbage, quote unquote, right? And now what you're seeing is a huge revitalization of that area. Properties, apartment complexes, multifamilies that are premium, expensive properties, right? New bustling restaurants and stuff like that are demanding high rate premiums and stuff. So how do we build systems around that can understand those models and what's going to happen, catch catch the early signs that this is going to be something that's a good property worthwhile. And so we built, like, a company we acquired recently is STR, and they're a hospitality analytics firm. And you would think, what does hospitality and hotels have anything to do with properties and stuff like that? Well, the fact is, if you have high-end hotel services with lots of traffic and stuff like that, you're probably going to want to have, if you're looking to invest into a restaurant location, that's probably a good thing to know, for things like that, right? And then another example of what we're doing is we just acquired a company called 10X. And what they do is they're an online auction platform. And so when somebody's looking to sell a property, you know, for example, if, you know, what Charles was talking about, like building like an ecosystem as a whole for like a one-stop shop, if you will, you know, you can go to CoStar and LoopNet and put a property up. And then, I mean, the end game goal might be something like, you know, okay, I put this property up and it's going to go up to auction. Well, if I put it up on LoopNet, I can then just kick it to the auction side of LoopNet and boom, there it goes. You know, one-stop shop. So I think it's a mix of building features and functionalities that nobody else has to keep us ahead of the game and to keep us innovative, so that as other people try to move into the space or go into certain directions, they just can't quite compete on the same level. So lots of different strategies at the end of the day, and engaging with brokers, property managers, you know, investors, all of those people, right? Like that, it's, you know, we're doing a lot to maintain a big dog spot. And to give like context around how much data we have and like our market share, we're the industry leader. We have about 80 to 86% of the market share, depending on who you ask, for data analytics. We know essentially, we kind of know everything about every building in this country. And it's pretty wild to know. We have a plane that flies over the country that takes pictures of buildings and stuff like that, right? You know, so.
Sort of like Google in the air. So
yeah, exactly, right. So we invest a lot into this data piece of it, and we validate it. We have a whole team of researchers that validate it, so we have more information and more accurate information than anyone out there, because we actually put the time and resources into in verifying that we have quality data.
Wow. All right.
And I like the question from Ashley here, because that's a good question that everybody should remember. That's going to probably be asked in just about any interview you get in software development. Could you share about the specific project that you worked on that you're proud of? I even tend to ask that. So, man, I've had a fairly long career, so. Man, there's tons of projects that I'm really proud of. One of the most recent projects that I worked on, if I talk about stuff outside of CoStar, was that a buddy of mine had a friend of his that contacted me about a project with NASA. And I ended up doing a mobile application for NASA that was just, unfortunately, it was a short-term project, meaning they had a specific conference that they were doing this mobile app for that was just for the specific conference, and they only ran it for like a half a year, and then they took the application down, which was kind of sad because I liked sending that link out from the App Store to this NASA project. But that was one of my most fun projects, where NASA was launching these satellites to study the Earth, and they needed an app that would show people how the satellites were studying Earth, but it did it in a slightly innovative way, where they had posters up all around town, and the app I developed for them would allow them to scan the poster. So you would just put your phone up to the poster, and then it would start playing the video showing what NASA was doing with their satellites to study the Earth. And it would give you more information on where to go to learn more about it online, and also where to go to attend this conference they were having about that particular project. So that was pretty exciting. But I have a ton of examples. So there's been a lot of fun projects. And I can keep going if you want, because I'm seeing the questions come in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can answer the question too.
Okay.
Cool.
So I see about expanding my experience at Northrop Grumman. Funny enough, it's just like my experience here with CoStar. I actually got hired at LoopNet, and LoopNet got acquired by CoStar. And I was actually working for a company called TRW, and they got absorbed by Northrop Grumman. So I became part of Northrop Grumman, and I was working over here in Space Park in Redondo Beach. So, and one of the nice things about working over there, it was in the South Bay. I had literally just moved out to LA because I'm not originally from LA. I'm from the Midwest, St. Louis specifically. And I had literally just moved out here, and that was my first job in LA. And when I worked at Northrop Grumman, I was on their software development team. We weren't an external facing development group. We were internally facing. So we made products for the teams internally to Northrop Grumman. So the ASP, at the time I was doing VBScript and ASP, Microsoft Technologies. They use SQL Server as well. And I developed products that could help the internal teams be more productive. So all mine was, even though we had websites, we also worked on external websites that were more marketing tools for Northrop Grumman, but all our internal development was internal tools to make other teams within the company more productive. So I worked there about 5 years, and then I moved on to more mobile and ASP.NET specific things. I can expand even more, but yeah, I could go on and on, but I don't want to take up too much time because I see there's other questions coming in.
Yeah, the question for company culture, is there a split between upper management and engineering to drive results? And then how do we at HR what do we do to bridge that gap? So I guess you want to take the first part and I can talk about the HR piece of it, Charles, if you want.
Yeah, company culture. That's what's good about CoStar. There's, sometimes there's a rift between what management wants and what engineering wants. But I think since Andy, the founder of the company, I think because he approached this initially from a technology standpoint, he has a lot of trust in the technology side of things and understands that, technology can get a lot of these things done. So I don't really see a rift between the upper management and the software side, as I've seen in some other companies I've worked for. There's more of a synergy between them. Yeah, we have deadlines and things we need to get done, but he understands that sometimes technology takes a while, especially on big integrations. And he also understands that that we know what we're doing. We're all adults here, and we have great suggestions we can bring to him, as well as he has a great vision for where he wants to take the company. So I see a lot of good synergies when we're working with this company. And like I say, I'm not feeling in a place at my position where I'm being dictated technologies or dictating exactly what I need to do. It's more about, here's what we want to do. How best can you get it done? And so that's what I appreciate about the company. They're not saying, oh, you need to use this technology, you need to do it this specific way. They just say, this is what we need. How can you accomplish that? And then we explain, this is how we can get it done. And they're like, okay, that's great. So
yeah,
I'm sorry, Nick.
No. Yeah, that's been my understanding too. From the HR side of it, I'll admit, like, we actually have a relatively small HR team because we don't have a lot of these issues and kind of things like that, right? Like, each team is given a lot of trust and autonomy to be able to do their work, HR has a lot of different functions, of course, and I think where the initiatives that we see value in right now that we need to continue to be better about is, again, like the diversity and inclusion that I talked about. And it's not just doing better recruiting efforts. We need to be better about building a lot of different things for our organization. But that's a big key initiative right now that we're working to bridge the gap between what leadership wants and actually what our teams look like, And then a big piece of that too is, how do we continue to develop our people? We never really had like a formal mentorship program because everyone had so much autonomy, but it's like, mentorship goes a long way for a lot of various different reasons. One, it helps the mentee develop, it helps the mentor develop, it helps build relationships that build stronger connections that enable teams to perform better. I mean, there's just so many different benefits to a mentorship program, and we're finally investing into that. We're finally building up a learning and development team that is providing great things. We just got access to LinkedIn Learning, and anybody in the company can do that now. That's great. And how do we build better onboarding processes so that when somebody does come onto a team, and in a lot of ways, CoStar is very much run, just hit the ground running, you know, but not everybody brought into every position can just do that. There's like for technology, there's obviously we have a huge legacy stack that's been built upon for many years. You know, you can't just jump into this stack and know exactly what you're going to do, right? So we have to do these kind of things, and that's where I think HR has a lot of work ahead of us to help enable our teams to perform better. And me, of course, just being on the recruiting side of things is like, I got to find good people, and I got to do it quick. You know, we're moving quick, so we got to do it quick. There's a lot of tasks.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I think we have like 2 more minutes.
Let's
address the last question, which is, does the company provide any internships and opportunity for the current students now? Maybe some grad positions, full-time positions, as well as any internships going on.
Sure.
So, if so, what experience should the student garner, or if any to obtain the internship or the full-time positions?
Yep. Great news is in terms of skill sets and stuff like that, you guys are in a great program for computer science. You know, last year we hired a couple people out of Cal at Poly Pomona, and it was one of our best hiring schools. So people coming out of this school for us is a big, you guys have a lot of strong skill sets. So we're not necessarily looking for any one given skill in particular. We know based like the .NET stat and everything like that, like these aren't necessarily things you're learning in school. So, that's okay. We understand that. What we're interested in are people who are learners, right? People who are passionate about this type of work and like spend time to develop themselves and learn new things, just try out things, see how they work, So I think your best bet in terms of for us is like taking time to build independent projects that you're passionate about. And if they relate to real estate or our tech stack, even better for us, that helps you stand out, but that's not, that's at the end of the day, some of the things that we look for really quality people too, just from a skill set standpoint. In terms of internships and full-time jobs, unfortunately right now we don't have any internships available for the coming summer on the West Coast, and I believe we have some on the East Coast, but I believe those are just about to be filled up already. And in terms of full-time opportunities, at the moment I do not have any full-time opportunities posted on the West Coast. We're probably looking to start filling those roles a little bit later down the line, probably sometime early next year. That's where we're at on that. And in terms of obtaining them, again, doing those projects, I think that's just a huge way to, help develop yourself and learn. And, like Charles said, it's a lifetime of learning. So I think, if you can, the sooner you can set yourself down that path, I think the better you're going to be in the long run.
I see. All right. Thank you everyone for coming in. I think it's time, and I think we all have classes to go to. And definitely thank you, Nick and Charlie, so much for this opportunity to learn more about the company and some of the insights you guys have. So hopefully by next semester we'll have any internships and opportunity open so that we can get some students in for you.
Yes, that would be wonderful. That would be great. So thank you so much for the time, guys. I hope this was helpful in some way, and we really appreciate you guys having us.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. See you guys.